like working on this Jeep is pretty much standing on your head the whole time. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Jeep Wrangler video. This one's great. This one's good because I got the cylinder head off of it now. If you saw the last video, I did the lower intake manifold gasket. All right, a little bit of wiggling, and it should just come right out. Ooh, look how gross that is. Because I've been battling a P0306 with this thing, which is a cylinder 6 Misfire. This car doesn't overheat. The coolant looks great. The oil looks great. There's no mixing of either one. Only thing I would get was the cylinder 6 Misfire in the mornings, and you can hear some sloshing in the heater. You know, when you start the car up, you can hear something sloshing behind the dash. Okay. And basically, what's been happening is that combustion gases are getting into the cooling system. And last week, the reservoir here started filling up with coolant. Popped the cap open. It was just full of gas. You could smell it too. It smelled like exhaust. And yeah, it's a screaming cylinder head issue, cylinder head gasket, cylinder head issue. Okay, because combustion gas is leaking into the radiator, the cooling system. So that's where I'm at here today. Already got it pulled apart. I'm gonna fast forward the video. I'm gonna go backwards, and then I'm gonna fast forward the video through the lower intake manifold disassembly part, because I did that in the last video, and if you want to see that, go back there and look. I'm gonna get right to the cylinder head and what I'm doing to kind of fix this thing. Show you what I got. Yeah, so every time I've gotten this tool out, I've always had some issues with some valve train. I've used this on a bunch of Dodge trucks, and sure enough, I'm using it on my Jeep. But it's a real inexpensive tool, but it actually is really, really helpful. But I don't know how well that's coming up on camera, but that's the piston right there. And if you can kind of see that, there is definitely coolant. I can see coolant in there. And if I go to like cylinder 4, it doesn't look like that. It's pretty dry in there. There's a little puddle down here. Let's see, yeah, there's a little puddle right here. All right, that's the piston there. This is the cylinder wall. There's a little puddle of coolant there. Yeah, so that's not too cool. And I pulled out the spark plugs, which I should have done this earlier, but this is cylinder 6, okay? It's red, and the rest of them, 2 and 4, are not red. And the red would be rust, all right? So, basically, need to tear down the head. I need to pull the head off, do a tear down. And the best case scenario, it just has a blown head gasket. But just in case, I got a remanufactured head. It's really cheap. These things are only like 300 bucks. Yeah, 300 bucks. And it's actually a really simple head to pull off. You just need to remove the intake, the coil, the valve cover, the valve train, and the head will come right off. All right, so I got 8/15s. Start cracking these guys loose. This should be fun. They're on here at least 90 pounds, at least. So. There's a bracket back here. Oh, there's a dumbass bracket on the back of this thing. Yeah, the bracket's holding Just like the wiring harness, the breather tube for the trans. Let's try this again. Ouch. Alright, so looking at the cylinder head, so this is cylinder 6. I really don't see anything wrong with the cylinder head, but I can't see so well. I'd probably have to stare at this thing for quite some time. Same thing with the gasket. Okay, I don't see anything really obvious except for like here, the discoloration here. So it is a multi-layer metal gasket. This is cylinder 6. Okay, but what I did notice, all right, so right here on the block, if you look at like cylinder 2 and 4, right here it's nice and silver, kind of clean. And on cylinder 6 towards the top right there, see how it's kind of rusty? I'm pretty sure that's where the head gasket's failing. So that's cool. Let me get the coolant out of these cylinders. I need to look down in the cylinder, make sure that thing's not cracked, which I'm pretty sure it's not. Pretty sure it's all right here in the gasket, right where it's all rusty and stuff. Because right here is where you have coolant, and it's gonna, as soon as the gasket goes, it'll bypass it. Like right there in the corner. So if you look right there, I bet it was bypassing right there. All right, so check this out. Here is the remanufactured cylinder head. Come on. All right, so check this out. Got a remanufactured cylinder head for $300, which is a great deal because if you're gonna get this one checked out and skimmed, it's gonna be about $160, $200 these days to do that. So this works out really well. And there's also a $75 core on this. So this thing is just ready to rock and roll out of the package. And after taking the exhaust manifold off, check it out. It's got a fat, nasty crack in it right here, right? Which I could hear every now and then starting the car up. This is actually the second manifold this car has had, okay? This is an aftermarket one because the original Mopar one, it broke probably 100,000 miles ago. So these things are good for about 100,000 miles. And I went ahead and ordered just another one just like that. This is a Dorman one, and it's exactly the same thing. So this one should last me another 100,000 miles, hopefully. But yeah, so of course I ordered a Mopar cylinder head gasket, and I ordered the wrong freaking side. So I had to run down to the parts store real quick, and I'm going with the Felfro. I don't have really time to be waiting for another one, because for some reason these things are on back order. I don't know why. I think it's a parts chain thing, supply thing. So I had to run down to AutoZone real quick, and I got a Felpro one. I'm gonna need some new bolts, some new head bolts. These are factory, not putting anything else on here but factory head bolts. And I think that's it. As far as prepping the block, so I'm gonna want to prep this block for the new gasket, get all this crap off of here. And what I'm gonna use is I'm gonna use a little grinder. And as far as the pad, these things work great. These are made by 3M. They're called Rolox bristle discs. Rolox bristle discs. You got to be kind of careful what you use because you don't want to tear the metal up. And these work pretty well of being pretty safe. They don't really remove too much material. It's like a plastic brush pretty much. They're made by 3M. They're called Rolox bristle discs. And I'll leave the link for these down in the description box because they work really well. And they last a really, really long time. I think you can get two for around $15, and I've had these two for quite a while. But yeah, just buzz this crap off here. And as far as like the gasket material that you have in the corners here, this one I kind of already did. But if you need to scrape the gasket material off of here, so this is the little gasket scraping tool that works better than a razor blade, I think. It's about 8 inches long, and you can get into spots a lot easier than using a razor blade, and it's just as sharp. I mean, it's got a carbide tip on it, and it never goes dull, and it works really well. And it will just, you can pull it and push it, and it will just scrape all the crap right off of all these surfaces. Okay, it's got to be careful. You know, you got to be real careful not to gouge up aluminum and stuff, but it works really well. Right here is where the head bolts go in. It's always a good idea to blow these out because they're probably, especially down here at the bottom, are full of coolant. Check this out, watch. You don't want that. You don't want that down there, okay? All right, so that's about as clean as I'm gonna get it. I don't wanna go too crazy because those pads do take off a little bit of material, and I just don't wanna gouge it up too bad, but it is pretty clean. Hit it with some brake clean, wiped it off the best I can. Got the Fel Pro big bad blue one. Let's see, it actually says left hand here, which means you can't mess up. All right, so I kind of cleaned off. So I cleaned off the surface of this thing, hit it with some brake clean, checked it out. So it is all good. So it is a Chrysler remanufactured. And this is a Chrysler head. So this was a core at some point. So this would probably be a little easier without the alternator in the way, but I didn't take it out. All right, new cylinder head, cool. All right. Okay, so what we're looking at is to tighten down the head bolts, you got to go to a certain sequence. The way it's going to go is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all 45 foot-pounds first. And then after that, we're going to do it again. We're going to bump it up to 65. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. And then we're going to recheck it at 65. And then we're going to do a quarter turn on every single one at the end. Okay. So like working on this Jeep is pretty much standing on your head the whole time. Okay. All right, 65 foot-pounds. We go back and we recheck all of them. And then it's gonna be a quarter of a turn with a, probably this ratchet here, not with the torque wrench. Here's a little tip when you pull this apart. This bolt here, 1, 2, 3, the third one is longer than the rest, okay? I just kept it all together, so I wouldn't have to freaking mess with it, but yeah. If you do end up pulling all the bolts out, just remember the third one is longer. I just got hit. Make money while you sleep. That's the ghettoest shit I've ever heard. Okay, we're gonna go into dropping everything mode, huh? the heat shield that comes with the new manifold. I remember I didn't want to use it because it's kind of cheap looking compared to the factory one. The factory one's a little bit bigger, a little bit better, but you can't install it with it on there. You got to put the manifold on first because it covers up a bunch of the bolts. So. But it does come with a pretty decent gasket. Surprisingly, it's pretty decent. It's multi-layer, so you're not gonna blow this one up. All right, so I got the manifold all put in, got her all back together, did a little oil change, got some coolant in her. I'm about ready to start it. All right, so new cylinder head. I want to kind of prime this guy up with oil before I actually crank it over. What you can do is you can actually just floor the car and crank it over and it won't start. I just want to try to get some juice up to the head. Now you don't want to do it too long because you can burn up the starter. All right, let's start this guy up. All right, sounds pretty good. Go ahead and burn off some of that oil off the manifold. All right, so it's actually a lot quieter than it was. I think the manifold with the crack in it, it made it pretty loud, but as far as the way it sounds a little better. It sounds a little smoother. And before I could always kind of hear the water pump make some noise. I don't hear anything right now, but go ahead and let this thing just warm up, bleed, and that's pretty much it. Some more water in here.